Good day to you, the viewer. I decided to make a little introduction segment to my um, podcast here, just to introduce, how I formatted this. So, coming up, I'm going to be talking about the two-party political system in the United States, and it's just going to be a very general interview of a friend of mine named Mark Mueller, and it's not necessarily like a discussion, but rather just me asking him questions and his responses. And then afterwards, I added the conclusion segment, sharing my thoughts and summarizing the thoughts of other students as well who took a survey that I created. So, anyway, that is the general gist of how this is going to go. So, I hope you enjoy. Do you consent to me recording this?
I consent to being recorded and being in Andrew Mara's podcast.
What is your name and age?
My name is Mark Mueller, and I'm 18 years old.
Do you think that the two-party system is having a positive or negative impact on the prosperity of the United States?
I think that the two-party system is having a negative impact on the prosperity of the United States because I don't think that it's necessarily right to split our opinions into only two very broad categories. We each have our own individual opinions on certain matters, and they often fall half and half into these two-party systems. To say that you follow one, Republican or Democrat, you associate yourself with all these ideas, and people can make assumptions that you associate it with one negative idea that they think is associated with one of those two parties, when in reality it's not the case. And I just think it's almost toxic in a way that it's just too broad to follow just one or the other. I think it should be split into more or something.
Can you give a few examples of what led you to your conclusion about that? Have you seen anything in particular go down, or have you experienced something personally that made you feel like, wow, politics is horrible because of this,
Probably because I guess my dad is very Republican, but mostly only in the sense that just the economic aspect of it. He just feels that oh, the healthcare system was completely messed up because of the Democrats and whatever. And some of my friends, they really don't like Republicans because of all the other things that are often associated with them as well. And I don't know, I just don't think it's really fair of them to be so critical, especially of my family, especially when they don't think all these negative, oh, the more racist side of them, or whatever, of Republicans, because that my dad doesn't believe in that, and it's just I don't know, I really don't think it's fair to make all these assumptions that because you side with one party or the other, just because it's just too broad. It's if you associate with Republicans, then you can associate with the economic part of it, but not necessarily the border wall or their immigration, control or whatever. But if you're really honing in on the economics, then you kind of just have to accept, oh, we're we're gonna crack down on immigration and stuff like that. Versus Democrats are the complete opposite. So it's just I don't know. It's just you can't really just put yourself into one mindset and make sure it's not a one size fit all, and just a lot of people just assume too many things just based off of you being a Republican or a Democrat.
Do you feel comfortable talking about politics with your friends and family?
I usually don't like talking about politics with my friends and family, mostly because just what I said earlier, all the assumptions just they get to you, and I don't necessarily need people assuming one thing or the other just because I associate with one or the other party. And it usually ends up in a lot of unnecessary drama anyway, and that's another aspect I don't like about the two-party system. Because of all these assumptions, people just like dramatize everything, and they can get upset over like whatever you believe. And I'll listen if somebody wants to like say their political like opinions or whatever, but I often don't share just because I don't need like more drama or like more unnecessary like anger to transpire just because of one side or the other.
Um, Lastly, do you feel that the political climate in 2020 is significantly worse than previous election years?
I definitely think it is worse this year because there's so many like heated issues that are transpiring right now, especially with like the COVID epidemic. It's become a political issue instead of like a just issue, and your political party also determines how you want like officials to deal with it. So I definitely think that there's like a great sense of urgency in this year's election, as like so many people just kind of want to ignore the virus and put it off and just continue on to like fix the economy or whatever, right? But then others really feel like so many people are going to end up getting hurt or dying because of it, so that they want to fix it. And instead of uniting as one nation to fix the virus, it's split into two parties. That definitely adds to like the negativity in the political climate. Um, Also, the rise of like the police brutality, especially the protests, and how to deal with that. That's another big hot topic issue that's just sprung up in. I mean, it's been an ongoing issue, but like all of the protesting and everything has really sprung up in 2020 again, and like deciding on how to deal with that is another big political question for people. So that adds to the negativity of the political climate. Also, like even just like last year's election between Trump and Hillary, like Trump was like just like they were two very contrasting people, obviously, and that was already like pretty significant. Whenever you have a big contrast in ideals and everything, it also adds to like the negativity in the political climate as well, because people will become very one-sided on an argument or an opinion, so that they'll be very they're not eager at all to change like their opinion at all. They're like, well, if we're gonna get Trump or if we're gonna get Biden, then these are the policies, and they kind of just fixate that in their mind, and they don't want to hear any other opinions. That's another big thing about the two-party system.
And so, can you like conclude that the two-party system has contributed a great deal to all of the negativity and hatred that you do see within politics in general?
I definitely do think that the two-party system has contributed to the negativity in the political climate as of right now, just because I wouldn't say it necessarily caused it. People can just be, sometimes a lot of people just really fixate on one idea or the other, and then they kind of adopt those morals, and then people are also very stubborn. So while I don't think that the two-party system necessarily caused it, it definitely was not a good, like it didn't help in any aspect. It definitely contributed to the negativity. And if there was the abolition of the two-party system, or if there was like more parties that you could like scope out and like broaden your opinions, so that instead of being only a Republican or only a Democrat, you can really like elect officials that fit the needs of like everyone. So yeah.
Thank you for your time, Mark. I really appreciate that, and hearing all of your thoughts on the two-party system and its impact on the prosperity of the country.
Of course, it was my pleasure.
After the discussion that I had with Mark, I decided to, make this concluding segment and talk about some of the opinions of the other students that I had collected in a survey. And I got 27 responses, which I thought was pretty good. And these are all first-year students at Texas Tech. So I will just kind of talk about my opinion about the two-party political system, and then, introduce the opinions of other people, and the overall, general idea of, how people feel about the two-party system in the United States. So, essentially, I don't think it's good. I think it creates a lot of division in the country, and I think that it leads to a lot of propaganda in the media, which, people will become divided because of this, what they see. And this division is obviously bad because it creates violence. Like, a lot of people are protesting right now. You have a lot of looting, and you just have a lot of violence going on, and people just absolutely livid with each other. And it's part of the reason that a lot of people think it's taboo to even discuss their political beliefs with friends or family, because they feel that it's a threat to their relationships with these people, and um, it just really does not help anyone. So, I'll just talk about a few of the people that I saw the responses of, and just so how people overall felt about the political system. So, a couple of responses here. You have one person saying creates division by party rather than looking for a common goal. Another example is the two-party system does not represent all of Americans' ideals and keeps us in a loop of bad presidents and politicians when the people never win. Another is while the two-party system allows for representation of many values and beliefs in our government, it also divides the country so much that it undermines any receptive and civil discourse that could be had. So, reading a few of these, you can already see that the general idea is that people think that the two-party system does create the divide that I was mentioning earlier. Um, and here's a really in-depth response, is that this person said, I feel the party system has a negative effect because while they may have different views and it's good to have different perspectives, having two parties creates so much conflict and uses up so much money and energy that could be used for helping the prosperity of the country, but instead people choose to bicker over which group is best and try to get control of the country instead of trying to enact things and make everything about which party they're in and what implies, like about you, versus what we can do to help, etc. So, you know, when I read these, I just see, in general, there's so much, so many people think that there is just nothing getting done. There's no actual productivity in our political system, and it just creates so much unnecessary division. And then a few other things to add, I suppose, are this is my personal favorite, is always bringing up George Washington, and he originally had warned against having political parties. He told the people not to do that, and well, they did it, and there you go. So that's what happens. And I just genuinely think that George Washington was so ahead of his time with that statement. And then a few other thoughts, and this isn't just about the political parties, but just about the political climate in the country in general, is that, people think we're losing our faith in democracy and just elections. People are too divided. Everyone is fighting. The country has become so separate, nothing's getting done. And then you have another person here saying abolish the electoral college and the two-party system. And it's just all of these things, you see how unfortunate of a system we have, and how, people just in general feel that it's so, so terrible. Um, so yeah, that is overall the conclusion of my research and the conclusion of my project in general and how I feel as well. So thank you for listening, and have a great rest of your day slash break, slash whatever.